Game shows and lost media go together like peanut butter and chocolate, and as established in the first video on this channel, there is a lot of lost media in game shows, whether it be pilots, full seasons, or even entire shows. And since that first video was just going into one topic in that pool that wasn't really talked about, I feel like a video like this going into other subjects in that pool of lost media is long overdue. This video is only the tip of the iceberg, and I may just do a part 2, but today we got matches, snakes, pugil sticks, and one unused freebie to round out the list. Also, this is not a ranking, this is just a random selection of topics that aren't really talked about, and some of these topics may actually surprise you. So here are 10 pieces of lost game show media.
Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome to the premiere of the biggest, most exciting, most dramatic television program that I, or you, or anyone else has ever seen.
Game shows at the turn of the millennium were starting to look a lot different. Following the success of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on ABC, networks began pumping out shows with 7-figure cash prizes in order to compete with Regis Philbin and The Hot Seat. Some, while never making it past summer 2000, came and went with at least some fanfare. While some shows were just blatant ripoffs of Millionaire or international imports, Greed seems to be the most fondly remembered of the million-dollar game show craze of 2000. Created by the legendary Dick Clark and hosted by Chuck Woolery, fresh off a revival of The Dating Game, the show has more of a cutthroat approach to the genre and in some ways is better executed here than other shows in the genre that just thrive on being very cutthroat.
So I think I should be the most. I also think that Alicia should be the...
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna take the most, and I'm not doing anything else, so work it out.
Well, you were the one who got
Well,
the
you're the one who's got it wrong.
I don't
So you're
care.
nothing.
I brought us to
You get the middle.
consensus.
You're gonna get the middle.
Nope,
You're gonna
you
get the
are.
middle. You're gonna wind up with nothing.
Anyway, that element alone of a ruthless go big or go home set the show apart from the other shows competing for Millionaire's audience. Despite this, the show was rushed into production without a pilot being filmed in order to arrive before the second season of Millionaire launched, and because of this, there are various times throughout the show's run where its rushed production became pretty clear.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Well, here's an important note for you. Greed will be on tomorrow night for a special edition for more Greed, right here on Fox. Good night, everybody. Scott's got $80,000. Everybody else in this group ended up with $40,000. Good night, everybody. Tonight's winners on Greed.
While the show didn't get the ratings that Millionaire pulled in, it became the most watched show on Fox for most of its run. While this is a good sign for a network that scored another hit with Family Guy the same year, it ended on July 14th, 2000 after 44 episodes, despite the positive word of mouth. While there were plans of continuing the show, this wasn't meant to be. In 2002, Game Show Network picked up the show for reruns, where it lasted a healthy 6 years before leaving the network in 2008. And it's because of those 6 years in reruns that we have a good chunk of episodes from the show's bittersweet run. Of the 44 episodes that were made, 10 are completely lost, while 4 have at least some content available. Given that in the past few years, a large chunk of the episodes began to rapidly appear on both YouTube and the Internet Archive, I think this entry will be outdated sooner rather than later.
Everybody, hi, Richfield. Hello, America.
Good morning, Drew.
Welcome to The Price is Right. Good luck.
Remember when The Price is Right was the only game show airing on CBS daytime? Most of its lineup by 2009 was dominated by soap operas, and this was before The Talk aired alongside Price and the other entertaining game show in the lineup, Let's Make a Deal. Guiding Light was the longest-running soap opera on the network, and its ratings were slipping away in 2004. And when its cancellation became more of a reality when 2009 came around, it became clear that its replacement wasn't going to be another soap opera, but a game show. And the choices were very interesting. The Joker's Wild, The Dating Game, the aforementioned Let's Make a Deal, and surprisingly, The $1 Million Pyramid. all but The Joker's Wild got to the pilot stage, and while the pilots for the dating game and Let's Make a Deal remained relatively the same to past versions, the pilots for the $1 million pyramid would be more like a tournament than a simple sit in front of the TV and enjoy in one go affair. The syndicated $100,000 pyramid did that in the 1980s, and so did the previous version of the show that left the air in 2004 in less than glorious fashion. Considering that there was already too much game shows airing in 2009 with the $1 million top prize, this concept wasn't going to work, let alone in daytime TV. Anyway, on to the contents of the 3 pilots filmed for the $1 million pyramid. They filmed them on June 16th and 19th, 2009, with Michael Davies' Embassy Row producing the pilots, and from what has surfaced, the pilots look pretty faithful to the versions associated with the Pyramid franchise. Access Hollywood reporter Tim Vincent hosted 2 pilots, and strangely, former Superman actor Dean Cain also hosted a pilot. It seems that the problems about the project mentioned earlier were not lost on the CBS executives, as the show along with the dating game were not given the series order, and Let's Make a Deal got the go-ahead and is still airing today with the very talented Wayne Brady as host. The $1 Million Pyramid would later see life in a less than stellar video game by Ludia and a card game that would be released a few years later, and the show as a whole would not return until 2012. Another revival of the show would premiere in 2016 and seems to have had more staying power than prior versions. Today we only have the aforementioned photos and a few short clips from the pilots, and although I said earlier this would not work on daytime TV, I would love to see these pilots one day.
This is the battlefield for our game of speed and strategy. These are the letters which lead to victory on Blockbusters!
Every country has a different taste in game shows, and blockbusters and catchphrase are the poster boys for this. What was short-lived in their runs in America became monster hits overseas. The latter is still airing today with Stephen Mulhern as the host, and given that the show first premiered in 1986 and ran all the way into 2002, you'd think that all 348 episodes of its original run are intact at ITV, right? Well, not quite. You see, the first 9 series of the show were produced by a company called TVS, or Television South, which is a South and Southeast franchise holder for ITV, and throughout its decade-long existence, it created heaps of programming that would either become pop culture hits in the UK or little footnotes in British television. When the company went defunct in 1992, its library was sold to International Family Entertainment, which became Fox Family Worldwide in 1996, and was sold to Disney in 2001 for $5.3 billion, with the TVS library included. So the rights to the first 9 series of Catchphrase must be with Disney, right? Well, that's not the case either, as Disney's role of the TVS library acquisition included destroying paperwork documenting and noting rights of the various TVS programs, making the rest of some, if not all, of the TVS library impossible without the paperwork. But this is the true final nail in the coffin for the TVS library, as it was revealed that Disney wiped the master tapes of several shows from the TVS library in the late 2000s, including Motormouth, the UK version of Fraggle Rock, Tugs, and the first 9 series of Catchphrase. This is a massive blow to the TVS library and archiving in general. Because of this huge loss, home recordings are the only way to recover the lost episodes of the shows from the TVS library, and Catchphrase is no exception. When the tapes still existed, the show was reran a lot on Challenge TV in the late 1990s, and many recordings of those reruns have resurfaced online. Sadly, only 17 episodes remain completely lost, while only 2 are partially found. Given that the show received a lot of reruns on Challenge TV long before the tapes were destroyed, I remain hopeful that these episodes will resurface in full one day.
And the guy that makes it all happen, our host, Michael Berger!
I actually enjoyed this version of Match Game despite its flaws. It's not the best game show revival by all means, but it's not the worst as many people make it out to be. I think this is the magic pie of game show revivals. You know how the song Magic Pie by Oasis is considered by many to be the worst Oasis song ever made, and there are some people that think the song is utter indie genius? Well, the same applies to this. It's not gonna blow anyone away by any means, but it's a serviceable revival, and it's also another ruby of a show to come from the late Jay Walpert, and is also way better than what was originally pitched 2 years earlier.
MG2, the match game. Now here's your host, Charlene Tilton.
Thank you, and welcome to a totally brand new match game.
Yeah, anyway, I can go into the many reasons of why this version of the show was short-lived, but the website Game Show Garbage did an article on why the show fell on its arse, and I do recommend you check it out. It is a great read. But if longtime fans of the original giving the revival unwanted and unfair criticism wasn't the reason why the show was short-lived and is so obscure, the low ratings, not enough stations picking up the show, and airing the show in overnight time slots is basically saying out loud that the show has no chance of making it past the summer. For comparison, its eventual replacement Family Feud had its time slot upgraded from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. halfway through its first season. That's a time slot normally occupied by the Merv Griffin power couple, while Match Game was shown in the 10 a.m., 4 p.m., 1 a.m., and 3 a.m. time slots, which basically spelled doom for the revival. The show aired its final episode on May 21st, 1999, and reruns would air until September 17th, 1999, and was replaced with Family Feud the following week. I wonder how well that show's doing. After that, the show basically vanished from the public eye, and outside of one occasion in 2012, the show has not been reran on Game Show Network or Buzzer in the years since. Heck, its previous revival got more airtime in reruns than its original run on ABC, and that version is no longer lost media because of it. The number of episodes that were made of this revival is also unknown, and it seems that the only way the series can be found is through a streaming release. Besides, if Old Wheel and Hollywood Squares can get a streaming release, then so can this underrated revival of Match Game. You think the one thing that would distract you winning on a game show would be stage fright or brain freeze?
Real or fictional? Name a famous Willie.
Willie the Pooh?
Well, there's that, but what about getting thrown about by a wrestler, getting an electric shock, having your buzzer be a cacti plant while being blindfolded, or have the weather call for pigeon droppings? All that while the questions are easy peasy.
Spell cat. Name 3 chocolate bars that take their name from space. What is Ginger Spice's real name? What D is a 24-hour period? Complete the title of this film, The Texas Chainsaw. Spell Italy backwards. Which US state is Long Island in? What E can you eat boiled, fried, poached, or scrambled? What D is another term for stupid? What's the next number in the sequence? 14, 15, 16. Whiskey connoisseur and comedian Bob Monkhouse presented a game show called The Golden What? Jez.
Shower.
Distraction is just that show. Hosted by the hilarious and ruthless Jimmy Carr, the show is a simple question-answer, low-score gets eliminated game with all the distractions that not even an unwanted visitor during a Zoom call would do, with some of the distractions ranging from painful to the outright humiliating ones that I can't even show in this video. While the show only lasted 16 episodes across 2 seasons on Channel 4, It was undoubtedly a hit and led to the creation of several international versions, with the version in the US being the most notable. The version in the US stays exactly the same as it was in the UK, with the format, distractions, and Jimmy Carr being ripped directly from the Channel 4 original. The version in the US seems to have fared a lot better in stability, with 37 episodes being made across 2 seasons on Comedy Central, and even got life in reruns on British TV in the UK, just like the original. Although the UK version is the only version you can find today, whether on Apple TV or Pluto TV. None of the US episodes are available to stream, and for years, the only materials to surface from the US version were clips from reruns in the UK. It wasn't until July 2019 when a contestant on the show, Rob Little, uploaded his episode to YouTube, which turned out to be the series premiere, which later revealed to be the 3rd episode recorded. This photo from the Futon Critic also reveals that a lot of the episodes were aired out of order, and the 4th episode from season 1 was never aired on Comedy Central. In July 2023, tape trader Ray Slimpix recovered most of the first season of the show, minus the unaired episode 4 and the Out in the Wild episode 8. It's highly unlikely that the US version of Distraction will ever see the light of day again, and home recordings of either the original Comedy Central airings or its Challenge TV reruns are the only way to unearth the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Gladiator Arena in Los Angeles, California, here are your American Gladiators.
If you were around in the early 1990s, there is a 100% chance you've seen American Gladiators. Premiering in September 1989 and running all the way into May 1996, the show pitted members of the public against an elite team of gladiators in a battle of strength and agility in a variety of events that can range from trying to hit a target while avoiding tennis balls being fired at you, racing each other on an upside-down track on their hands and feet, to knocking their opponent off a platform with pugil sticks. I don't think the description I said does the show justice. Go check out an episode. This show is a pop culture icon, and it is very deserving of that title. The show was brought back for a short time in 2008, but it sucked, and a new version of American Gladiators has lingered in development hell for the past 15 years. While the original show is still available today thanks to the various streaming releases, there are a couple of episodes and even some events that have not turned up in any reruns of the show or in any of the show's streaming releases. Episodes 58 and 84 are the only episodes of American Gladiators that have not turned up since their original air dates. Since there is no complete and concrete episode guide for the series, I'm going off of what is available in the readily available episodes. What is known about episode 58 is that it aired in October 1991 during the 3rd season and is notable for being the one where Mark Ortega and Sherry Jardina advanced to that season's quarterfinal match, and is briefly brought up in episode 60.
Mark beat George Lawrence in the prelims.
And that's it. That's all we know of the episode. We don't know what events were played, what other American Gladiators appeared in the episode, or how well they did. We literally have no other information other than the events in that episode to secure Mark Ortega's and Sherry Jardina's spot in the Season 3 quarterfinal match. While episode 58 has very little information left behind about its contents, episode 84 has more information available. It aired in October 1992 and featured Annette McBride, who go on to the first half finals of the 4th season, but lost to Betsy Erickson. Joe Kettle also competed in the episode, but he lost to Ted LePage in the quarterfinals. Breakthrough and Conquer are the only events confirmed to have been played in the episode. Although the show was rerun a lot in the years since its conclusion, episode 58 was omitted from reruns, though episode 84 was not skipped. It's very likely that episodes 58 and 84 suffered the same fate as the 3rd episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000's KTMA season, where its master tape disappeared between when the show was last shown and when the show reappeared. It's very likely that copies of episodes 58 and 84 were in circulation at one point, but its whereabouts are currently unknown.
Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, Kitty Carlisle, plus 100 members of our studio audience on To Tell the Truth.
It might just be me, but I think To Tell the Truth is the only panel show from the 1950s that still holds up today. With every passing iteration of the show, it shows how well the format has held up over 60 years after it premiered, and the current version with Anthony Anderson only proves that statement even more. Everyone has their favorite iteration of the show, with the one from the 1970s being held in the highest regards. Though the version in 2000 may be the most underrated version of the show. John O'Hurley is a great host on the show, and with this version bringing back the audience vote that was present in Buck Collier's final season, I think that helped bring the show into the new millennium without adding gimmick after gimmick just to make it feel fresh. Though it originally wasn't going to be like that. A year before the show premiered on the heels of Family Feud's comeback, a pilot was filmed for this new version of To Tell the Truth. While the format was unchanged, the reported teams of imposters showed what the producers were aiming for when the show aired and would be more present in its ill-fated second season. Also, the pilot had the endgame from the less well-remembered Robin Ward version. While the format may not make the pilot jump out at you at first glance, its panel may surprise you. The late Meshack Taylor and Paula Poundstone are present in the pilot as they are in the series that made air. Also on the panel was Dutch supermodel Frederik Vanderwaal and Richard Karn. Yep, for the first time in 14 years, two Family Feud hosts share the stage. In this case, future Feud hosts. Obviously, the pilot would sell the stations, and the series would follow soon after, and would last 271 episodes, and production would officially cease in January 2002. Various photos from the pilot can be found today, including ones of Al Borland and the real Jay Peterman on the same stage. No footage of the pilot can be found today, but hopefully, one day, we'll see the Seinfeld and Home Improvement crossover we never got.
Other than Family Fortunes, name a TV program with family in the title. Gene.
Generation Game.
Now we have a scenario where a show is not only a monster hit in America, but also a monster hit overseas. Sure, The Price is Right was also a hit overseas, but does it have 24-karat golden moments like these?
Name something people take with them to the beach.
Turkey. All right, what do you think? A bird with a long neck? Naomi Campbell.
The first thing you buy in a supermarket.
Turkey.
Give a good reason for man to dig a hole in the road. Name it.
Gravedigger.
The gravedigger is digging a hole in the road.
A food often stuffed.
Turkey. A noise your partner might make in the night. Fart.
Also, the added top answer bonus element in Big Money is a nice balance to a game that has so many laughs. It makes Hollywood Squares look like an after-school special. The show ran for a very impressive 22 years on ITV from 1980 to 2002. It was resurrected 4 years later as a celebrity version, which ran until 2015, and was finally brought back as a civilian format in 2020 and is still airing today. The original run is still being reran on Challenge today, and with so much of the show's original run being accessible today, you think that the whole run has been preserved by ITV, right? Well, no. The show's availability is a bit complicated, and I'll try and explain as best as I can in this entry Family Fortunes' very complicated accessibility. The first 3 years of the show were hosted by British comedian Bob Monkhouse, and of the 4 series he hosted, only Series 4 is intact in the ITV archives, as they wiped the first 3 series a long time ago, and only a select number of episodes from the wiped ones have resurfaced, and home recordings of his run are confirmed to exist thanks to Bob Monkhouse, who recorded 90% of his tenure on Family Fortunes, though none of these home recordings have been made public, and only a small number of episodes were sadly not recorded by Monkhouse and might be lost forever. Max Bygraves' run is virtually intact and completely available online. Les Dennis's run is also intact and is reran the most on Challenge, but a small number of those episodes have not been reran in ages and are considered lost. Also complicating the availability of Dennis's run is that his final series was cut short after only 10 episodes were aired sporadically from January to August 2002, and the other 14 episodes that were recorded were held back from release until 8 of them were shown on Challenge TV in 2012, and the remaining 6 have yet to see the light of day. Andy Collins' run, however, has the most unlikely chance of resurfacing in full, and his run is fully intact. Given that his hosting received mostly negative reviews and the move from primetime to daytime basically sealed the fate of the show, it was canceled just 4 months after its daytime debut. Only 2 episodes and a handful of clips from his run can be found today.
Scott, we ain't got insurance for all that.
I need to send my ass down?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Woo.
People have given CBS Media Ventures a lot of crap for not properly reviving Hollywood Squares since its 2004 conclusion. I know I said my share, but in hindsight, I think the spin-offs have been given a bad rap with the admittedly mediocre hip-hop squares on VH1 and the not that great Nashville squares on CMT, even if the host did do a good job. The first spin-off, though, to make air, MTV2's Hip Hop Squares, is a great addition to the franchise. Hosted by WWE 24/7 champion Peter Rosenberg, it's a really enjoyable version that doesn't add too many gimmicks in an attempt to make it feel new. It just felt like the show was put on ice after the Tom Bergeron version came to an end, and this spin-off shows the format has not aged a day. The show only lasted 20 episodes across 2 seasons from May to December 2012, and despite the show becoming the most viewed show on MTV2, I mean it is MTV2 after all, the show relatively faded into obscurity and is not really well known. When VH1 announced their new version of Hip Hop Squares in 2016, it was billed as a new series, and the only time the MTV2 version was ever mentioned was in the press and by Peter Rosenberg himself on Twitter. In fact, all 20 episodes were available on MTV2's website before vanishing. For a while, only clips from the MTV2 version was all that we had available, and 1 episode was available for a short time before vanishing. In 2023, Race Olympics, remember him, recovered 7 episodes from the MTV2 version and have since been uploaded to the Internet Archive, though the rest of the series remains lost to this day. A new version of Hollywood Squares is currently in production at BET, although at the time of writing and recording, its host and date of premiere is unknown.
This is the marriage of 2 of your favorite TV games. I'll be hosting Match Game.
And later on, I'm going to be hosting Hollywood Squares.
Have you ever seen one show where it is explicitly a mashup of 2 existing formats? Well, you probably hadn't, but there was once the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, and on paper, it sounds like a good idea. Both formats lasted long, healthy runs and are well liked by the public. But what aired on NBC in 1983 was anything but a pleasant sight. The main producer of the show was Mark Goodson, and the Match Game portion was left unchanged, and given that Mark wasn't a producer on Hollywood Squares, the other portion is the most unfair, overcomplicated, and unprepared version of Hollywood Squares to ever exist. The show wasn't that good, and by all accounts, Gene Rayburn didn't like how the show turned out, and John Bauman was very blunt about the show on Twitter when it was added to Buzzer in 2019. While the show ended up being a complete disaster, its pilot would have stopped the show from making air. Now, from what is available of the pilot, it looks like the Match Game portion had 3 contestants instead of 2, with the lowest scoring player being eliminated while the other 2 would play Hollywood Squares. It's currently unknown if the Hollywood Squares portion of the pilot was the same as it was in the series. Its endgame, however, is reportedly very complicated than picking a celebrity with a random number to multiply your super match winnings by. Note, the following information cannot be verified, but according to YouTube user Kahola, the winning contestant picked a celebrity and either X or O. The celebrity pulled the X or O tab. Behind one tab was the celebrity's name. Behind the other was a dollar amount. If the tab pulled had a dollar amount, it was added to the pot for the head-to-head match. The contestant called another celebrity and X or O. If the tab pulled had the celebrity's name, the contestant played the head-to-head with that celebrity for the amount in the pot. If the contestant cleared the board, they played the last celebrity picked for $100,000.
I really can't say.
No, say it. I want you to say it.
It's not good, okay? It's not good.
Aside from that information and photos, it looks like some footage from the pilot was used in a promo, though that promo has yet to resurface. Given that the series was added to Buzzer in 2019 and all the episodes exist, the pilot may also exist at Fremantle Media, though it has yet to be shown on Buzzer. But if the pilot did surface, I bet it'd be better than what we got in 1983.